where the industry is, or at least where people are actually focusing their time if you're working in crypto, blockchain / Web3?
So I think in February, I'll be coming up on a decade in this space. And it takes me back to laughing many years ago when I was looking at some posting for some consulting firm trying to hire crypto people, and they wanted like a decade of experience in blockchain. I just laughed. I was like, wow, the thing's on it. It's like, that means you're Satoshi, like back then, it was like 2018. And, but now I will soon have a decade of experience in this strange little space. My perspective on why I like it and why I'm interested in it hasn't really changed. I think these decentralized architectures are very interesting for many reasons. You've heard of many of them from the perspective of Orchid. I've also thought a lot about early on the concept of banking the unbanked. I was always thought that's very interesting. I think very important. DeFi, I think, is really interesting from the access to financial products and the ability to really like understand and make more transparent the systems. If you look at what's happened, without naming all the names, which we can do if you like, but the projects and the characters that have caused a lot of the recent pain, with the exception of Terra, have been primarily centralized systems that haven't had the transparency in them. And there's challenges when you do have transparency, because in the case of Terra, when you do have transparency, then it's actually clear. You're like, here's a big bullseye. If you go after this, you can take us down. And people knew what it took to take them out. When you get interested in an area, and it's an area we can talk about the volatility, but we can also talk about volatility in the last year or two in the private startup space in terms of funding for those projects. A lot of these things are really very volatile internally, and the sort of 20 years I spent in San Francisco and Silicon Valley taught me this, is that if Twitter had started and it immediately had a token that was traded after like 6 months or a year or something, which is like the case of many things, then, when Jack Dorsey wasn't feeling well, maybe the price of the token would have crashed. And then, when the entire space was going up and down, maybe the triple would go up and then come down. And this kind of inherent volatility in what are very small companies, ultimately, very small projects, is not really that wild. And also by the fact that we have things like, we have 24/7 markets. There's no like backstop. No one's coming to bail these systems out. So yes, these swings and volatility is really inherent into a lot of what is happening in the financial aspect of it. Whenever I'm coaching somebody on either joining the space or staying in these spaces, I try and encourage them to think through the reasons why they do these things. And you have many reasons. Just go and make a bunch of money. It's fine too. But if you want to do these things for a while, it's usually you've got to have some aspect of, you got to kind of get crypto pilled somehow. Like the decentralized pilled. You got to it's got to mean something to you. Otherwise, just got to do something else, like a real estate, or there's plenty of things to go do in the world.
Yeah.